They say opposites attract.
Well, how about these opposites? Daddies and sons.
You're listening to Daddy and Son.
A podcast where we explore the dynamics of daddy and son relationships, multi-generational views.
And everything else in between.
Well, hello. What's up?
When I heard Rashida say that I specifically was not her friend, I was shocked. It's been a while since Rashida and I have talked one-on-one. This is our last chance. If you can't come meet with me, woman to woman, to really tell me to my face what's good, then yeah, this friendship is most certainly over.
I feel like, we needed a moment to talk without everybody there just so that I'm just clear on everything.
What you want to start getting clear on?
I don't like gray areas. I like black, I like white. I don't like a middle ground, especially with people that I feel like I care about. You and I, we was good. It wasn't until Erica Banks said what she said, then we enemies.
Yeah, she's right. Now we're enemies because what do you mean? Like, if something happens, you aren't going to square up with me as my friend. If something happens, you should always have my back. Welcome, everyone, to Daddy and Son. And this week, our Good Friday special, you know how we do it every single year. We always, get a little bit biblical up in here. This week, we are joined by a special co-host. Norm is not here with us. So our special co-host today is Cole, aka Madre Mayo. Emphasis on the extra mayonnaise. One of the very white people in my life. I have lots of deep love for. We go way back. And Madre decided to join me today to talk about this very critical topic of friendship and betrayal. Yes, you heard me right. Friendship and betrayal. Because you're going to say something stupid and then, no, we're enemies. So, ladies and gentlemen, theys and gays, take out your Bibles because we're about to do some Bible studies today. How do you feel about that, Norm? Why did I call you Norm?
I'm not sure, but
I think it's just rote memory.
I gotcha. But my greeting to the audience is, ladies and gentlethems, welcome to our show today. So I am Cole, also known as Madre Mayo to my daughter. Just a bit of context, I was born in Manitoba, academically educated in Minnesota, but mostly educated by my peers and my loved ones. Living through their shared experiences brings me joy, and connecting people is something that also brings me joy. But slightly more importantly in terms of connection is my daughter, Alex, who I choose to call my daughter, Alex. Alex has been a chosen family member for several years. Alex even maintains independent relationships with other family members, me not included. They have their own stuff going on. I just about slipped a tongue there. And I really enjoy the fact that Alex is is the closest thing I know to a child, and in terms of a chosen family member. So I really appreciate you, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate that, Madre. And you know what? I'm gonna call you Madre. I'm not gonna call you Cole.
Okay,
if
sounds
that's
good.
okay.
I'm down with that. Of course, yeah.
And that way I don't have a Floridian slip, because we don't need this week's episode to be any more ratchet. So, speaking of, we always have our little segment, what are we drinking today?
Right.
So what we are drinking today is a lovely gift that I got from Madre for Christmas. Birthday and Christmas all in one.
I think so.
But I got it at Christmas, but it was for my birthday.
Yes.
Right.
Agreed.
And it's a French Provence rosé. I can't even pronunciate that name. Don't even ask me. But it's Deborah Crox's brand.
Yes.
So you guys can look it up online. It's a very summery drink
It is.
for a warm spring afternoon. This Friday evening is giving me a lot more warmth than I was expecting.
Oh, I mean, the studio right now feels like a warm summer's afternoon.
It's like Satan just gave a nice cool fart on you. It's just like, oof, it feels a little bit warm in here. So, today as I was in church and I went to Good Friday Mass, and I was sweating.
I bet.
I was sweating so much. So like, someone said to me, like, this is an Anglican church, it's not Baptist. Like, you don't need to be fanning so much. It was maddening. But you know what? I was inspired. I mean, I always knew that I wanted to talk about this throughout the week, but I was really particularly inspired by one of the readings today. So there are multiple things, going through Decisions of the Cross.
For sure.
But specifically Luke 22, verse 39 through 53. And if you want to take out your Bibles, listeners, and follow along, feel free to do so. Grab your wine, grab your Bible, and follow along. Because it's Bible, biblical studies. So you have to drink wine. It's not a cocktail day; it's a wine day. Because that's what they drank in the Bible, wine.
True. And our family also had a host as well, that little small biscuit that you had to eat, which represents the body of Christ. So if you have a host around here, I'll take one of those as well.
You know what? I was going to say something, but it would not be appropriate.
Not biblical?
I was going to say I'll be your host for today, but that would not be appropriate.
That's a hard pass. I love you very much, but that is a hard pass.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Jesus, I call this section of Luke chapter 22, Jesus in the garden. Y'all, I'm stressed.
Okay.
So, forgive me because I'm reading it directly from the Bible, but I'm giving my own little Bible studies twist to it, as I usually do. So Jesus and his crew, they kind of slid out, right, and out of Mount of Olives, and like they do on the regular, he's like, yo, Crowdy, we're gonna hit the streets, right? So he turns to his squad and he goes, look, y'all need to pray. Stay prayed up, stay blessed up. Don't let temptations catch you slipping, all right? And Jesus dips off a little bit, to kind of get away because, again, he's stressed. So Jesus is like a stone throw away. He kneels down and gets real with his pops, right? Who is God. And he's like, Pops, if you can take this cup from me, do it. But for real, your will, not mine. And then boom, like an angel pulls up, right? Irks from heaven, and like emotional support vibes and everything. So this angel gives Jesus that holy recharge, but Jesus is still stressed the F out. And he's like, bruh, I'm sweating hard. I don't know what's coming down the pipeline. It looks like real hard things. And it's like his pores is like, it's open.
This is a very intersectional story, I have to tell you.
Like sauna open, like faucets running, like a hydro pump burst, right? That's how much pressure Jesus was under, right?
This is an illustration in my mind. Rest assured.
So he gets up, he walks back, he goes back to the Crowdies, and he says, squat up, laid out, everybody's snoring, exhausted. And they didn't hear him. So he's like, for real, y'all? For real, sleep, y'all? Y'all like really asleep right now? Like, y'all just really gonna be sleeping while I'm here stressed? Like, I'm supposed to be like the savior of all, and you're following me all about the place, and like, y'all just taking a nap? Pray, fools, before temptation jump you like the ops. But speaking of the ops, this part is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, go on.
And this is the part that's most important to today.
All right.
So in the squatty, right, there was one of his homeboys called Judas, right?
Okay, go on.
And Judas, while, Jesus mid-sentence talking to the gang, right? A bunch of guys come over. Flashlights, swords, I don't know, sandals, skirts, horses, and not like my Mustang, like actual horses. And they roll up and they're like, who is Jesus? And Judas is like leading them, right? So that one fake friend, that fake friend that is
I have a
always
few of
in
them.
your group.
Yeah, of course.
That,
Yeah.
they see you out on church
Yeah.
street, and they'll be like out there pretending, like giving you like ear kisses and pretending like, you and them go way back. But in the same breath, like they'll take your man.
I got it.
That's Judas.
Got
That's
it.
him right there.
Got it.
Right? So Jesus pulls a smooth kiss on Jesus, but on the cheek, right? Because they're not gay. Like their best is. And Jesus goes, oh, so how is this? You snitching on me with a kiss? That's wild, Crody. That's wild. So Jesus' homies saw that going down, and they start reaching like, say the word. Just say the word, Jesus. Say the word. We wanna throw hands. We'll jump him for you. Like, we'll jump him for you. But Jesus was like, nah. We're not about that. Peace and peanut butter. Right? But the dude end up slicing off the brother's ear. You know what I mean? Like, just clean.
Right. Zero
Zero chills. And Jesus sighed like, I'm a disappointed man. And it's like, nah, we're doing all that, we're doing all that for you. But Jesus was like, no, my guy, put the sword down, put it down. Well, then he just kind of reaches out, he picks up the dude's ear, and he like slaps it back on, like that girl in American Horror Story.
Yes, I know the
Madison.
one. Of course.
Yeah,
Go on.
when
Yeah,
they
yeah.
were doing that little seance,
Right.
and they sewed up the body,
right.
so that Jesus like puts the ear back on, abracadabra, ooh la la, aba ooh gaga, boom, the ears is back on the man's face,
Got it.
on the ops, right?
That's graphic.
So Jesus looks straight at the ops, and the ops at that time was a priest. I guess there still are the ops. The temple guards, like Romans, which I guess are still the ops. The elders, we'll forgive the elders, even though the boomers did fucked up the economy. But that's a whole other That's a whole other podcast.
Norm's not here to defend the boomers.
Like all deep, like you like they're looking at him like he's Thanos, like
yeah.
like he's some strong man, and just is like,
Sure.
calm down, my guy. I'll come with you, like
Got it.
I'll come with you, like it ain't that deep.
Yeah.
I mean, not as deep as they were gonna stab him later on in the back, but he's
A
like,
little foreshadowing, everyone.
yeah. It's like, so they're like, really? Y'all need a whole SWAT team from me? Look, I'm just here starting Revelations. I'm just want to go to the temple, hit it down with my girl Mary, have a good time, chill out. But you know what? I'm not even gonna act up. I'm coming with you. And he pauses for like a quick sec, but he's like, I get it. This is your moment. Y'all got the night shift with the darkness trying to win. So I'm not going to hold you. I'm just going to come with you. All of this happened because what? His homeboy Judas decided to sell him out for a piece of change. For a piece of change.
Time immemorial story, everyone.
And this is kind of why today I feel it's more prudent more than ever on this good, emphasis on the good Friday, to talk about this story. Because lately I feel like a lot of people in my life that I consider to be friends have been trading out values and principles that are so fundamental to my existence as a human being for a few extra ducats. And I don't know. It's if I'm gonna be more specific, it's like it first started when you have to go all the way back to 2018. You know what I mean? You have to go first back to the first time when Donald Trump won the US election.
Okay.
We all saw what he was giving. You know, we all saw that he was on some demon time. And then flash forward, the people were like done with him. And then for whatever reason, people were like, yeah, I don't know, propaganda, Russian interference, I don't know. But for whatever reason, I'm just going to call it marketing. He just became popular again. And we now live in a society where fluoride water is bad, but raw milk is good.
Right.
So I'm just like, okay. But then I've always said on this very podcast, when the US coughs, Canada catches a cold.
Correct. That's a Trudeau line, actually, from another time period. Before your time, actually.
Another Trudeau.
A different Trudeau.
Another
The
Trudeau.
father, actually.
Oh, the
Yeah.
father of
Yeah.
the Trudeau.
Yeah.
The Trudeau.
The Trudeau.
Oh.
The OG Trudeau.
OG
honey.
Trudeau.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so for me, it's like when I see my friends here becoming very right-winged and uttering not facts, but rhetorics
Sure.
that are completely manufactured U.S. issues. I wouldn't even say propaganda, but just U.S. issues.
Yeah.
And rinsing and repeating them here in our country and saying things like, oh, we don't need an economist as a prime minister. We need someone with ideas because we need more money. That doesn't even make any sense. Like, if you need more money, like if you needed your tooth extracted, are you gonna go to your spiritual advisor?
Right.
If you need legal advice, are you gonna go to your accountant? Like, I just don't understand. Like, what conversations are we even having? And it goes back to the whole thing about people saying they voted for Trump because of the price of eggs
Right.
and milk, which we all know is absolute bullshit, because none of those things were attacked or has been attacked by the administration. The only thing that has been attacked is people's human rights.
Agreed.
So
Yeah.
I'm just like, I am foreshadowing the same thing happening here. Not necessarily, because, polls show that liberals are in the lead. But for all my close friends that are so pro MAGA Pete.
MAGA Pete. That's great, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And not even paying attention to the dog whistles and the rhetorics that are coming from his administration, from his team, and saying that your concern is pocketbook issues, but in the same breath, smiling in my face, kissing me on the cheek, and telling me that you're my friend. Judas!
Well, there feels like there's a bit of a disconnect.
Go on.
Between what you've said, it feels like there's a bit of a disconnect. And the disconnect can come down to a number of factors and variables. I just want to jump back just for a brief moment to those who are listening elsewhere in the world. We're coming up to a federal election here in Canada. And
thank you for reminding the girls, because we do have international listeners.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm thinking about you, Australia. And so what we're faced with, and a lot of countries in the world are kind of faced with this as well. What we're faced with is like a sort of like a Velveeta mafia coming out of the South, where somehow their politics are influencing our politics, even though we would like to think that, and maybe we practice as best as we can, that we are an independent nation from the United States. But we can't help but also absorb some of their messages as well, because we share some of the same social media. We obviously share some of the same algorithms as everyone else does on the planet. So we're kind of influenced by things that are not of our own national making. And that's problematic because these should be national issues, even though they are, of course, international issues. Let me just jump back to the economist part for a second. I think it was George Bush. This is American now, so I'm going to jump back to America back in the timeline. George Bush, I think, said it's the economy stupid, and that's how he got reelected, because it's the economy stupid. So let me jump back across the border now to where we live in Canada. We can't help but manage our economy either in defiance or in accordance with the agreements that we've made, or against the particular leader who seems to be undermining those agreements that we've made. So we don't need a politician exactly. We need an economist who also masquerades as a politician to manage the politics of an economy worldwide. And so there's one candidate here that does that quite successfully and has also internationally and belongs to a lot of economic international groups. And by that I mean has relationships with other economic people across the planet. So if he gets in, I wish it was a woman, if I'm honest, because we could use a bit more in diversity in our politics. But the fact is, this particular politician, in this case, this is Mark Carney I'm talking about, is a man for his time. This is a time when
I like when you say that he's a man for his time.
Absolutely. He wouldn't be my first choice because
Correct.
my politics don't lean in his direction, but we are facing something bigger than our own internal value system structure. Anyway, I've ranted enough about this. So please continue with your theme about friends and shifting politics and that sort of thing.
Well, this is kind of like the overarching branch of what I have been seeing, and I've been thinking about it all week, as I mentioned earlier. We've seen this time and time happen again. Whether it's the biblical days of Judas selling out, his homeboy, Jesus, for a piece of change, or if it's another one that people thought was a prophet, Hitler.
Sure.
A lot of people worked with him because they said that it was going to be great for profits.
IBM, Ford, just to name two companies in particular.
BMW.
Sure.
Just
Volkswagen. Sure.
Not to call out anyone's preferred brand of vehicles, but I'm just they did the deeds, built tanks, did the accounting,
Right.
all the different things.
Right. This is documented history, by the way.
Yes, in the name of profit.
Right.
In the name of profit, and look what destruction that led to. And I see it now again today with the cult of MAGA.
Sure. Yeah.
And how a lot of people are turning a blind eye to, again, social justice for individualized profit. It's like the more we go through these cycles and we go through these mass periods of great destruction and we rebuild,
Right.
and society becomes, I don't even want to say complacent,
Right.
but we've gotten a little bit of progress, and then boom,
Right.
it just takes a few people to say, oh, we need to bring back the good old days.
Right. And of course, the question becomes, the good old days for who? So if you want to go back in time, the good old days were good and old for only some segments of the population, but not everyone. And I say that as a white male who passes for heterosexual with a very deep butch voice once in a while. I'm just messing with you. The fact is, the good old days were only good for certain people. If you didn't have the ability to vote because you're a woman, those were not the good old days. If you were a person of color who didn't have the ability to own property, those were not the good old days. So let's understand what the good old days means in the context of how we've progressed up until this point today.
Well, I think the operative word is old.
Fair.
It's the old days, and it should stay old. Out with the old and in with the new. And I'm sick of it. I am sick of it, and I don't want to hear it anymore. It just has me thinking, you know, the the Bible says, or not even the Bible, the Lord's Prayer says, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us," or something like that. Forgive us of our sins. Child, something of that nature.
I feel like we can bring back the word trespass.
Wasn't I not the one
I
who
feel like
went to church today?
I think we should renew that word trespass. I feel like there's opportunity there, maybe for poetry, maybe for arts.
Maybe for dramatic effect.
Sure, I'll take trespass.
But, it didn't say anything about
Right.
forgetting.
Right.
It only said forgive.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Jesus had, he had forgot anything, but he was very forgiving, to his ops.
True.
And I think I'm gonna have to take a page out of Jesus's book and, start being forgiving, but in the same breath, not go back to commingle in certain ways that I used to with my ops.
I get that. I mean, I think for me, one of the practices in
Or
your life,
friends who pretend to be ops.
fair.
Yeah.
One of the practices in your life, and this is a practice in your life that I struggle with, is the amount of grace that you give to people. So yes, it's true. You should give grace, specifically if the intention is to forgive yourself and to allow allow yourself the freedom to no longer hold negative feelings towards someone. And that also should be a curated experience, because not everyone deserves the grace that you're going to give them. For the purposes of your own peace of mind, grace is a fabulous idea. And other times, maybe it needs to be tempered and reserved. But you are generous with your grace. And that's really lovely. In the same way that Jesus, was generous with his grace as well. So basically, I'm comparing you to Jesus. Juan.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, that's the comparison I'm making.
Sometimes flash my invisible hair. I ask myself, WWJD. What would Jesus do?
My question is, what would Batman do? But sure,
What did Gaga say? I'm gonna dance, dance, dance with my hands above my head, like Jesus did. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do.
Gotcha.
But she also said, I won't cry for you when the jaguar comes to eat your face. Because that's exactly what it is. They've never thought
Right.
the leper would eat their face.
Right.
And I think it's going to be the same thing here.
Right.
A lot of people who are making decisions based on what my other co-host likes to call pocketbook issues, they're going to end up having the leper eat their face.
Yeah.
And then it's going to become a boo-hoo, rally behind me. And no, hon. I won't be. I'll be dancing with my hands above my head like Jesus.
Right. Well, just to, and I'm not necessarily pointing at your co-host, your standard co-host, but I mean, anytime a conservative, as an example, as I see it anyway, pulls back their values to say, well, this is all about me and protecting my own. That's lovely, except that unfortunately you are a part of a greater community. And if you decide to leave someone else behind, that means that you also have the opportunity to be left behind, because there's always a bigger fish than you. There's always someone that's richer than you. There's always someone that's more sociable than you. There's always someone who has more assets, and I don't mean financial assets, I mean assets than you. So to close ranks around yourself without considering your nearest community to you in terms of how you value things, in terms of how you practice things, is a self-indulgent exercise that doesn't necessarily suit you well in the end. And that's difficult, especially when it comes to chosen family, because you're choosing to have them in your life, but also in a kind of paradoxical, contradictory way, to close them out by virtue of your beliefs, maybe not necessarily actions, but your beliefs is awkward and it doesn't bode well for the future. And I get that you want
Hit the nail right on the head.
I get that you want security. I get that you want stability. I get that you want, and the term is cognitive closure. I'm giving air quotes now with my fingers. Cognitive closure. But unfortunately, those things in a mass level lead towards authoritarian tendencies. And that's not what we fought for. So as an example, here's my self-indulgent moment. One of my greatest prides was living in Minnesota, but coming up to Ottawa when Ottawa passed gay marriage. I sat in the stands and whooped and did like the whole cheer thing when I saw the two political leaders shake hands. I think it was Harper and then the openly queer lawyer guy from Toronto who shook hands once gay marriage was passed. Ultimately, gay marriage was, I think a fairly significant part of Canada's history. It's certainly in terms of a gay male that allowed for bigger, broader things to happen. This happened to be the leading point. But there is a point of pride where you can sit in your house of legal representation and see that your rights and the rights of others in your cohort, in your family, in your chosen family, are being acknowledged. Not everyone, but it's a lead start. And that is super important. So when you see someone who is, I would argue, having a more conservative period of time in their life where they're trying to shun people out, either by their actions or by their practices, it kind of runs contradictory because it's not like they can't be left out too. They can be left out based on economics. They can be left out based on gender. They can be left out based on age. People at any given point can choose to leave you out in some way. And in this case, I'm referring to legislatively, or even socially.
Yeah.
So isn't it kind of better in the arc of your own personal story to be more inclusive and to be less exclusive? And this is a kind of game of you never know, but you never know when you may need to call upon the people that you may have dusted or Judas behind you to be your ally in a situation coming forward. You just never know because politics is cyclical. It's not like we're always going to have gay marriage. I predict that at a certain point, and specifically in the United States, that will fall and become less of a federal issue and a state by state issue. Hopefully that does not happen, but the bottom line is, it might. So ensure you continue to hold your chosen family and allies close to you. And if you don't, for the purposes of some short-term instability, because you're influenced by the media and your algorithmic bubble, or your delusionment with the left because you feel disconnected from the practical issues of your life, the bottom line is you are a thread of our society. And if you, I'm ranting now. If you choose to pull that thread and unravel it, well, then you will be unraveled at some near future point, but that is a choice you're making based on a reactionary response, to what you feel is an instability of your time.
You did your big one.
I think so.
You did your big one.
Okay, am I done ranting now? Do you want the mic back?
This is my ballroom claps for you.
Thank you for that.
You did your big one.
I'm clapping for myself now.
Honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh, it was mostly coherent then.
There were some squirrels in there, but I'm just
fair
playing.
enough. I'll take a shiny object to distract me anytime. Yeah.
I'm gonna do a refill, and then we will be right back. And we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, gays and theys, we are going to move into our listener letter. We had one from last week that we got from the Discord. And this one, I've titled it Alone Forever.
Okay, go on.
It's from Michael. And Michael says, I apologize for this if it's inappropriate for this channel. Again, because you know how Discord is, they set up in different channels within the server.
Sure.
But have anyone ever felt this way? I don't like looking at myself in the mirror and in pics. I kind of always feel ugly, and I know it's kind of petty to think this way, but I feel I won't ever find a boyfriend or even a good date. I'm trying my luck on apps, and I mostly even get either no replies. I've been trying Grindr, LOL. part of me feels it could do with the fact I'm, and he puts in quotes, ugly, or at least what I think is ugly. I always say I have bad luck with finding guys, and based on the past 2 dates I've been on, they were douchebags. Does anyone else feel this way, perhaps? Or are you having trouble with dating? Would like your advice on this. Love the show. Thanks.
That's so sweet. I can
Yeah.
appreciate the author's point. What was their name again? Michael?
Michael.
Michael. Awesome. So I don't mind jumping in.
I'll
But
let
how
you
about
start.
how about
I'll let you
lead
go
off?
first.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
You're my guest today.
Thank you. I feel so privileged. Thank you. So I guess there's a couple different things that come to mind. I'll try and break it down, and please bring me back on if I stray off topic. I'd like to talk about apps first. I'd like to talk about age, and to some degree about body dysmorphia, or maybe even not really seeing who you are. But I also like to talk about how better to engage in the world that gives you more opportunities to connect in a meaningful way, rather than the ways that we commonly use because they're convenient for us. So hopefully I can go backwards and go and try it this way.
Yeah, I got you.
Let me talk about the apps
First, yeah.
So I appreciate that you're using the apps because you may not be in an urban area, you may be in an area where, or you may be on a holiday, you may be someplace where things are not convenient for you. There may not be a place for you to gather with your queer peers, as an example, because maybe you're not located in an urban center. So I can appreciate that you're using that. The difficulty is you have to understand what the function of the apps is, which is to A, generate money, and B, keep you on there. Because if an app connects two people, they lose two paying customers. So please ensure that you realize that that is the function of what most apps do, which is to ensure that they continue to be good, solid financial vehicles for their stakeholders so that you continue to pay. So are you likely to find someone to connect with in a deep and meaningful way on an app? Possibly, but I wouldn't put, considering that it's Easter, I'm about to say this comment, I wouldn't put those Easter eggs in that particular basket. With regard to appearances, the difficulty I'm assuming you're a gay male. The difficulty is that so much of what we see out in the world is marketed towards us. I was just talking with a friend here on the couch a few minutes ago about how, sometimes we feel a compulsion to feel younger. Maybe I, Madre, could do something for my crow's feet. Maybe I could do something for my 11s. Maybe I could do something for sort of appearances. Which I can appreciate that at certain points that may be helpful because it feels like we can feel better about ourselves. That's not where my personal concern lies. My concern lies in the fact that people are using these tools for the purposes of these tools. I mean, like the beauty tools, or whatever the case is, and they're missing the mark as to what makes them attractive. Let's assume, as an example, that you, Michael, are a lovely man who enjoys volunteering. Let's assume that you enjoy hosting dinner parties. Let's assume that you enjoy doing things that bring community together in some way. That is your intrinsic value. And that's what's attractive to certain people. And that's who you want to attract, not necessarily the swipe right, swipe left profiles that you see online, as an example, or the guys that you might meet, that sort of thing. And the last point, what was my last point? I feel like I've lost my tangent.
So it was apps,
appearance,
yeah, and also the body dysmorphia,
right? So and I don't think this is unique to me. We as a queer community often think that younger is better, or more youthful is better, or somehow more attractive, which is fine. It can be. That's not everyone's demographic. I definitely skew towards the more bear category or the daddy category. So I'm, in some senses, appreciated for my wrinkles, for my bald head, for my use of $10 words, for the fact that I'm a fun dancer, that sort of thing. And so that's what I'm valued for in terms of like a bumper sticker of why I'm valued in some way. But what I would love for you, Michael, is to understand what you're valued for in the sense of what brings you joy. Because we all shine brightly and we all become magnets when we're in our state of sort of like core bliss, what we do that brings us joy. That's what attracts other people in our lives. It doesn't necessarily have to be dates. In fact, if I would encourage you to do one thing, I would encourage you to go to a friend's house party. I would encourage you to stand in the kitchen and meet the queers that you think are sort of like enjoyable, who you find common ground with, who are at a kitchen party, because those are the people that you will most likely find a sense of compatibility with, not necessarily the randos on an app. And I'll stop there because I've hit my 3-minute mark, I think.
You made some really fair points, really good points, especially about the apps and apps being a business.
Sure.
It is a business after all.
Of course.
And at the end of the day, I can't really speak to that because if I'm being honest, I've been slowly putting apps away since 2017.
I got it.
To know where I'm completely off them. But if I'm being honest, my best relationships, and I want to say most of my relationships, came from me meeting someone on the streets. You were making a very fair assumption that the person probably isn't in the urban area, which is fair because on the Discord, there are quite a large number of people who are in the GTA or even on the outskirts of Toronto, like in the Hamilton area or, etc.
Sure. Yeah.
And one of the things that I often say to people, gays are everywhere.
True.
Gays and Catholics.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Go on. Yes. Go on.
Everywhere. If you just allow yourself to go out anywhere. I've met an ex at a Home Depot. I've met an ex at a bar. I've met an ex at a club in Berlin.
Of course, yeah.
Like it's like apps are just, when people are on an app, it's because they're looking for something microwaved.
Agreed.
They're looking for something quick.
Yeah.
And you specifically mention here that you're worried that you'll never have a boyfriend, and that's why I titled this Forever Alone.
Yeah.
Because whether or not you think you're ugly is completely based on what you're seeing. And what you're seeing on an app is probably a lot of filters. A lot of these girls, they know the mathematics, they know the geometrics, they know the angles and all the degrees in Photoshop, or the Snapchat filters. I think Snapchat uses filters. I don't know, child.
Probably does. Yeah.
All the things.
Yeah.
They know they know the angles, the lighting, to make themselves look great. Well, some of these people, you meet them in person, and they're like the ugliest motherfuckers you'll ever see.
Well, for me, almost the ugliest people that I've ever met are the people who present in one way, but then as you sit with them and then you have a drink or you I'll go for a walk, you're like, holy shit. Like, you do not, what you present and who you are, that's a hell no for me.
It's a 360.
Absolutely.
Completely. And so I want you to give yourself, go back to, I can't remember what episode it is where I spoke about Grace on Grindr, but go back, give yourself some grace. Maybe take a break off the app. Summer is coming. Go to spaces where you can meet other people. And it doesn't have to be queer people. Because, again, gays are everywhere. But as long as you allow yourself to make friends and meet people, like, eventually you will connect with the right person. That could be at a running club, especially a running club. It could be at the gym. It could be at the mall. It could be at the local pub. Just allow yourself to go out and meet people. And if you put the right energy out there, then trust me, you don't really have to do much. it will come back and the right person will find you.
Can I piggyback on your point for just a second?
Go ahead.
So and this speaks to Alex's point about energy. I think what a common understanding that most all of us have observed is that when someone's in a relationship, they are far more attractive than when someone is not.
Uh-huh.
And, and it is interesting. And how you break that down is entirely up to you. But how I break it down is like this. I'm in a relationship of like 15 plus years. So there's a certain energy that I give off because I'm comfortable with where things are in my life. I'm engaging on some level and I understand where my limits are. And so for me, it's like, understand that you live in a certain kind of bubble and that how you intersect with the other bubble is maybe a match or maybe a mismatch, depending on how things are in that particular moment.
Yep. And you said that your last 2 dates were douchebag. That could be, again, the energy that you are attracting. You're attracting that energy because you are looking for a particular type of person that is off the status quo. It's what society tells you that you are supposed to like. But if you actually sit down and write out what is it that the qualities that you actually want in someone, and if because I say attraction and attractive are two separate things.
Oh, 100%.
And you will be surprised once you pay closer attention to what you want to attract, and you are intentional about what you want to attract, then you will find someone that you have an attraction to.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I think that would be a better approach. And maybe then just try it and let us know. Because I don't want douchebags for anyone in our Discord.
Agreed. And can I just jump in as a last minute? Can you make yourself a top 10 list with 3 negotiables? The top 10 list is, as an example, you want, as an example, a kind heart. You want, as an example, someone who's out to their family. You want, as an example,
which
someone
is
who has
key.
a pet. Oh,
T.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to jump on this one?
T. Yes.
Okay,
Don't.
Go.
That's one thing I've also learned. Stop dating straight acting men who are in the closet. Stop. It's nice. They're good for a fling. If all you want is sex, that's great. But don't expect a relationship out of that. Like, we need to stop it. We need to stop chasing down low men. Like, let them stay down where they are, low to the floor. We don't need to give them any attention, any time, any motivation to still be out here trying people and playing on our time. I'm sorry.
Let me just dovetail into that. The higher level way of approaching this is recognize where they are for themselves, but that's not necessarily compatible with where you are in terms of yourself. Anyway, so for me, make your top 10 list with 3 negotiables. Maybe smoking is a negotiable, maybe it's not. You know, maybe drug use is a negotiable, maybe it's not. Make your top 10 list. 3 of them are negotiables, and then use that as a template when you meet anyone going forward. And by the way, what is the worst thing that could happen to you if you weren't connected with someone as a partner? I mean, in the past, have you had beautiful relationships with other people? And not necessarily romantic, but also human connections. Presently, do you have beautiful relationships with other people that bring you and fulfill you? In the future, you will likely have the exact same thing that your past and your present are. It is not the end all be all to be coupled, and that's 100% fine if you go to your grave having had a series of beautiful connections and chosen family who have brought you fulfillment and have never had a partner. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It just means that you have chosen wisely for what is correct for your core, your spirit, and your soul.
Here. Thank you so much for that. And also, Michael, good luck. Let us know how it goes. Send us a follow-up letter in a few months, maybe midsummer. Let us know how it's going. Let us know if there's anything shared that really stood out to you, or if you thought it was all garbage. I'm just playing. Don't tell me that.
Please, yes.
With that being said, thank you for listening to today's episode, everyone. If you made it all the way to the end, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Daddy and Son. And if you have any questions for the show, like Michael, send them over to daddyandsonpodcast@gmail.com. That is DADDYANDSON podcast@gmail.com. Do you have any last words for the people, Madre?
I just wanted to let you know, to my daughter Alex, thank you for allowing me to come in today.
Thank you for joining us. It's like it's an honor to have you here. Like, I've always wanted this, and you know but there's only 2 mics. You know, 3 girls stand before me, but there's.
You always give the rose to someone else. You always give the rose to someone else.
But I only have 1 microphone.
That's true. Just so you know, I love you very much.
I love you too.
Mwah.
Bye, everyone.